Yo, what up, baby? It's the feature presentation podcast where movies and music meet. I'm DJ Sus1. My co-host Kenya's here.
Hello, hello, hello.
I want to say, I know this is not part of the podcast, but I just want to say the jacket's amazing. You're looking very cheerleaderish today. It looks good. I love it.
I'm not sure if that's a compliment
No, it's a
or
compliment.
shade.
It looks good.
Okay.
It looks completely great. No, it looks great. I love it. We got big talent in these streets today. And these streets means on the podcast, by the way.
Yes.
He's very well known for his legendary role as Bubbles on The Wire.
Legendary. Thank you. I like that.
That was legendary. That was legendary.
Awesome. I'll let you say it. Yes.
Yeah, you were involved in a bunch of TV shows, a bunch of movies. You're involved with a play that we're going to talk about right now, which is amazing. Andre Royo in the building. What's up, boy?
Hey.
Good. What's up? Good to be
We
here.
need like a sound effect or something, I feel like,
I
after
just
Sus
did.
does the intro.
Is that generic if we had the sound effects with the applause?
No.
I mean, feature presentation.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
You might have to get that. So let me start off with this. You grew up in the 70s and 80s in the BX in
Wow,
the
you're
Bronx.
just going to age me like that real quick.
I was
up
born
and
in the 70s and I'm
damn.
right with you.
Okay.
So, bro, how was it growing up in the Bronx in that time, and how did you get into acting? Because that, to me, that's the real era. Guys, forgive me, anybody who's younger or older for saying this, but that's the era of New York that I think was incredible, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, growing up in the 70s in New York, I didn't see it as anything because I was in it. So I didn't know I was growing up in any other way until I started traveling and going out with my mom and dad on like family vacations. And then wherever we went, they would go, "Oh, you from New York? Oh my God, how'd you make it out? Or how'd you survive?" That's when I really started to think, oh, am I in a rough neighborhood? Or I just thought it was my neighborhood. And you just was always around a certain energy of creativity and desire to get out. So growing up in New York, the great thing about growing up in the Bronx, specifically at that time, was you felt this energy of creativity like boiling. Like, people were in their neighborhoods. It was kind of, rough, or it was kind of poverty stricken, and nobody looked down. They looked hungry. And then you just started to hear like hip hop starting.
I was just about to say,
you
hip-hop
started
just
hearing
started in
like
the Bronx
the
at the
Knicks
time.
shooting, and you just started feeling like we're gonna make it out of this situation by hella high water, and you can thank us for hip hop anytime you want to.
Right.
That's it.
Yes, I greatly appreciate hip hop.
Yes, right.
So how did you get into acting exactly?
Acting was weird because I feel like acting found me. Like I grew up, and my dad was always watching TV. He would come home from work, he would sit and watch TV. He wasn't really a talkative man. And the only time I would see him showing emotion was like watching television. I'd be on my way to the bedroom, and he'd be like, "Sit here, watch this. This is Fred Astaire. He's one of the best dancers." Or "Watch this guy. He's John Wayne. He's great." And he would be so excited about showing me these movies that I felt like I want to be part of that medium that makes somebody like this guy excited. And I thought about it, but I didn't know how to get into it. And then one day I was doing construction in Manhattan, so to speak, and a friend of mine's girlfriend was walking to an acting school, HB Studios on Bank Street, and she was like, "Yo, I'm going to this acting class." And I was like, "Well, I just got off work. I got a construction hat on. I was just finished doing the jackhammer, so I was kind of ripped."
Okay.
And I was like, I'll go to the acting class with you. And I walked into this acting class, and it was full of girls, and they were looking at me all, I'm all dusty and swolled up. And, I went up and did a couple of monologues, and the teacher said I was really good. And I said, "All right."
Naturally, first try.
Yeah, she said I had the energy. She said I had the charisma. Now, will I take it serious? And I was like, I don't know. I want to, be around these girls. I want to hang out.
Hurt you.
Yeah, and the hardest part was telling my father at that time. I said, "Look, I'm thinking about doing this acting thing. I don't think I can do construction no more." And at that time, you're making like $2,000 a week, full benefits.
With
Like,
construction?
With construction, it was
Okay.
great money. And he didn't buckle. He just said, "All right, well, if that's what you want to do it." And
Well, applaud to him, because not all parents
that's right.
support
yeah.
like that.
I was waiting for him to go, "Are you fucking crazy? No, you can't quit the job." But he was like, "No, if that's what you want to do it. Just, give it your all."
Yeah.
And that was a different kind of pressure. But then it was like, "Oh shit, I just quit my job. I better make this happen." And I just stuck with it, and the rest is just, God given,
What do you say your first big break was?
Oh, I mean, there's so many.
You were in a movie in 1998, L.A. Without a Map.
Yeah, that's the first time I got my SAG card. I was in L.A. and I got my SAG card because I couldn't get my SAG card out here for some reason. I just wasn't. I was doing a lot of theater, so I wasn't getting into the film and television. I went to L.A. and I did this movie where I was ad-libbing and talking shit as an extra, and you're not really allowed to talk. But I was, I can't shut up. I was talking, and the director liked what I said, and he said, you know what? I'm gonna keep your lines. And then all these muckety mucks were like, we gotta pay him. We gotta put him in the union if he talks. And the director was like, well, put him in the union. And that's how I got my SAG card.
Nice.
So that was a break. And then when I came back with a SAG card, I was doing all the Law and Order.
Yeah, I saw you
I did
did.
all 3 Law and Orders. 3 different kind of characters. I was in everything. From the jury box to the snitch, and that was a big break because that was how all the black actors in New York were working. That's Law and Order. They always needed black people.
Yeah.
Facts.
So, but then the big break that got me, there's levels to it. The big break would probably be Shaft. That was the one with John.
The Shaft
Singleton.
remake.
The Shaft remake. I'm
Well,
not
John
that
Sing-
old. Yes, the Shaft remake, motherfucker.
That's all I meant.
Yeah.
But the John Singleton
The
remake
John
of the Shaft.
Singleton remake of Shaft. That had me in the caliber of people with Jeffrey Wright, Christian Bale, Sam Jackson, Busta Rhymes. It was like just a collection of these great performers that I stood out, and John Singleton gave me a lot of words of wisdom, and that took me, into movie. I mean, back then that was a box office hit.
It's a big movie.
Right? Big movie. So all of a sudden you get different auditions. But I didn't, again, I went back to theater because that's where my love was. And my manager called me up one day and was like, HBO got this new series. They want you to audition. And I was like, HBO was kind of big at that point. What is it? And they was like, oh, for a junkie named Bubbles. And I got upset. And I was like, I'm not. What the fuck are we talking about? I'm not doing a character named Bubbles. That's disrespectful.
So you wasn't feeling that?
No, I
first.
thought we were doing Pookie again. We doing Gator? Like,
Yo, but Pookie was great.
I
in
know,
New
but,
Jack
I
City.
didn't want to redo it.
Okay,
Like
okay.
in my mind, if I can't do as good as Chris Rock or Sam Jackson and Gator, then why do it? Like
Heard you.
why take it on? And I didn't know if they were going to be serious or if they were making fun of us, And then when I met the creators of the show, they were serious. Like the scripts were incredible, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I auditioned like 5 times, and when I booked that, that took me into a different stratosphere. At that point, I became a black actor. Before that, it was touch and go because Hollywood didn't see me as black. They saw me as other. They were like, you look Ethiopian. Or you look mixed. We have to explain you.
Which, by the way, I want to tap on that, and Kenya, we're going to get right to your next question. But I saw that when you were casting in your early days,
Yeah.
some people, tell me if this is true, some people said that you were too Latin, or you were too black, or you weren't black enough.
I wasn't black
or
enough.
you weren't Latin enough. That's what
right.
they said.
That's right.
Because I'm mixed.
Yeah.
I know I look Dominican, but I'm black and white. My father is, rest his soul, is white Jewish man. My mom is a black Christian woman, and I came out mixed. And I got that a lot just being in the industry, in the entertainment industry, that, I'm too white, or I'm not white enough, or I'm not black enough. And why can't I just be me? Why is it a race thing at all?
Yeah,
So
'cause-
what was your
I
experience?
mean, it was the
with
same thing. In Hollywood at that time, when they said black, they were talking about like Bokeem Woodbine. They were talking about Wesley Snipes. They wanted black. That's how that was being depicted in Hollywood. When they said Spanish, they were talking Al Pacino. They were talking
Yeah.
Italian. So I didn't fit in any box. So it was hard for me to really, really get like a serious role as a black or Spanish actor. Shaft was the first time. Again, you talk about big breaks that put me in like a Dominican role, and then The Wire, I was in the black role, and then all of a sudden I became the black actor or a black actor. But before that, a casting director told me I would have to get lucky because
Wow.
they look at you and they have to explain. They can't just put you on camera and say you're black because you don't look black. So luckily Hollywood has changed in that aspect a lot.
Yeah.
Talent is talent.
That's right.
Yeah, no, so I know you started in theater and then you
Yes.
took a 15-year break
Yeah.
from theater. Let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that and like what made you circle back?
A lot of things. I don't want to say I took a break. I went to LA, and at that point, there's such a horrible discrepancy in pay between theater actors and television. And once you start doing television and movies, the money is just astronomical in comparative to theater. You can't go back.
Yeah.
Now you got bigger bills. You bought different things. You got to pay, a lot more money. And your agents and managers are like, why do theater? Like, I don't want 10% of that check. So it's hard to go back, and you have to really fight to go, okay, I need to go back. And it was more of a need, than a want, because, we got 500 channels now, right? And for me, the television and movie game just got a little boring, so to speak. And I had great roles. I worked with a lot of great actors on great shows. But me personally, I wasn't finding the joy anymore. And, for me to find my joy, I decided I had to go back to where I started. And, I've always experienced that theater was the actor's medium. That's where we get out spiritually. That's where we get the most spiritual satisfaction from going out and being right there with the audience. You feel them, you ride with them, and that instant gratification is just fantastic. Television is the writer's medium. You're writing 8, 9 episodes, the writers is doing their thing. And movies are the director's medium. The director is God. He's the one that, picks everything, and he's telling his story from his vision. So I needed to go back after COVID, after a couple of things that I was going through personally. I just wasn't happy. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and be disrespectful to my craft and walk around bitter and just do a job for a check. I got to find that happiness. So I went back to theater.
And now you're about to wrap Drinking in America.
Yes, Drinking in America, written by Eric Bogosian. I did it at the Monumental Lane Theater, and it's been, fantastic. It's been everything for me. Like I said, it gave me back my joy in my craft. It gave me a chance to be in front of friends and families and friends and fans and new fans. Being in New York gives you the burst of energy that I grew up with. So it's been everything that I asked for. And tonight's the finale, so I'm bittersweet about that.
Yeah.
For people who might not have seen it, can you explain exactly what they can expect from Drinking in America?
Drinking in America is Eric Bogosian is a great writer from back in the day. He did talk radio.
And Mark Armstrong is involved, right?
Mark Armstrong is my director, and he did this thing called the 24-hour plays, where he directed these plays at the American Airlines Theater, and it's a collection of monologues about the different types of men with different types of addiction. I mean, from heroin to liquor to fame to the American dream, like just the idea of the alienation of men in the postmodern era. Back in the day, like the 70s and 80s, men growing up, we put ourselves in this bottle, like a ship in a bottle, where we decided what masculinity. How you say that word?
Masculinity.
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah. What it meant.
I know I don't look too masculine, but masculinity.
Yeah, that's right. You can pronounce it better than I can do. My tongue gets tired in the morning without caffeine. But men, we said to ourselves, or when I watched my dad or my uncles, we put ourselves in this box where we decided that our job was to support, protect, and there was no space to be vulnerable. If you were too smart or you tried to learn too much, you was a nerd or a geek. If you showed emotion, you were soft. Good guys finish last. Like we had all these, definitions that said that men had to be strong and not show any emotions. And after a while, most men are going to buckle.
And we have emotions.
And we have emotions, but we don't share it. We didn't know about therapy at the time. That was considered weak. So if a man wanted to have a release, it would eat you up inside, and you would maybe, turn into darkness, or you turn into a bottle. And then all of a sudden, you're trapped in this cycle of just self-medicating. And sooner or later, you're going to implode. And I go through a series of characters, like 12 characters, and I show these moments of darkness or despair or wonderment with this relationship with addiction.
And then, so we talk about sobriety, right? And I've had my own shortcomings when it comes to sobriety and, kind of being able to stay in a sober space.
Yes.
So do you feel that there's any personal connection or correlation to any of the characters that you had to?
All of them. All of them. I mean, I'm a year and 8 months sober right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And, I had a long stint with alcohol. And it wasn't all bad. I'm not going to, sit here and say alcohol is this horrible thing. It's weird with alcohol. You don't have a problem until you have a problem. Like it's programmed into our society that where when you're celebrating, you're popping bottles. Right? When you're in a bad mood, go get a drink. It's self-medicating, and you don't know you have a problem until it's ahead of you. Right?
Yeah, it's still serious.
And then when it's ahead of you, then you're pushed aside like, oh my God, what happened to you? And you're alienated from the rest of society as somebody who just couldn't handle it. And so when I look at these characters, I've recognized myself in all these characters somewhat. I've been through a lot of despair, anger, joy. So for me, this was a chance to say thank you to alcohol for all the good times and fuck you to alcohol for all the bad times. And to be able to put it in my craft instead of my liver, is the plus. Right?
Yeah.
So it's been, you know, I'm not gonna say it was easy to be sober, but for me, I'm a mama's boy, and my mom called me one day and said she was going through some health issues, and I said, okay, well, I can't be drunk. I gotta be ready. I gotta be ready when that phone rings. I gotta be not hungover or not forget that she called. I have to be as clear and clean as possible. So I put the bottle down.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I have my temptations, but again, I like to put it in my craft instead of my liver. And I got to be there for the phone when my mom calls.
That's
God bless
great.
on
That's
that.
great.
God bless
I
on
don't think
that.
we talk about that sobriety enough publicly,
No.
like in our shortcomings and our struggles. So I love that you're so transparent about that because I feel like when you could be open and speak your truth,
Yeah.
right? People relate and
They
they
do.
can connect.
They do. That's right. And I think, you know, I'll give it to this generation now, my daughter, 25, and I think they've opened up the conversation to be more vulnerable. Like you see a lot of actors, you see a lot of people that are openly, they're expressing themselves with a little bit more vulnerability than we grew up with. And I think that opened the conversation for us not to be so tight on sharing when we need help.
Yeah.
You know,
It
so
liberates other people.
exactly.
I want to go back to
This is great. I feel like, yo, this is.
No, you're
oh,
great.
the left and right,
Yeah.
the left and right vibes.
Yes, I feel rude. I'm a mama's boy, so I feel rude.
No,
turning
it's
my
all
back to the
good.
young lady, but yes.
So look, I want to take it back to The Wire,
Yes,
to
sir.
the what I said earlier, legendary,
Yeah.
Bubbles character, which you looked at me like legendary. Why? But a lot of people
Yeah.
know that character. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I wanted to know what The Wire represented for you in your career and how it changed your life and what it did for you. Did it do anything? Did
Well,
it lift you?
I mean, yeah, it did a lot. I mean, it might be a whole different podcast, right? I mean, The Wire is monumental for me. I always tell everybody when I'm talking about it that, you know, everybody in front of the camera or behind the camera of that show became better artists and better human beings. I mean, we were on that show in Baltimore, and we all got hit with this responsibility to do right by the people that we were talking about. Because this was the first time, I think, in all of our careers that we sat down and we were playing characters that were just right outside, right in front of us, looking at us and begging us to be like, do us right. Don't show us as one-dimensional characters. You know, when I was researching for Bubbles, you know, I talked to 100 people that were dealing with the addiction in different levels, and they all were like just these human beings who just had, you know, fell into an addiction, and it got ahead of them. And I looked at them like I look at the guys and the women that were like in the offices going outside in the winter smoking cigarettes. Right? They look crazy, right? Or you know, people who drink Coca-Cola or have to have sugar every day. Crazy. Like we all addicted to something. So these were just regular people that just, you know, were addicted to something that was hurting them. And I wanted to show the people, not the addiction. And it was the same with everybody. You know, the characters playing drug dealers didn't want to show them as these monster villains. They wanted to show them with intelligence. They wanted to show them with why they were doing it, to feed their families, to better their lives. The cops, you know, we have one dimension of relationship with cops, but these cops were like, look, I'm trying to do the best job I can. I'm getting my hands tied by the government, by the mayor. So we took it the responsibility to show these characters in 3 dimensions. And with that said, I think a lot of people just respected and appreciated it. You know, growing up in the Bronx or growing up in New York or any like cities, you know, you walk down the street, you ride the trains. There was a point where anybody homeless came on the train, you were disgusted. You looked past them or you didn't want to give them eye contact. You thought it was their fault. And I think people were all doing that, maybe not even knowingly. But all of a sudden, on Sunday, they turn on the TV, and they're looking at Bubbles on TV, and they're not turning their head.
Yeah.
They're looking at him, and they're really starting to learn and understand his story. And it made them go, you know what? He's just a regular guy trying to do his best. And I think that permeated, and they started looking at people in the street, and maybe not giving them money every time, but at least looking them in the eye and respecting them and saying, sorry, I can't do it.
You never know
Yeah.
what somebody's going through as
You
well.
never know.
True.
So,
And
yeah.
just staying on that a little bit, do you feel like there's like an irony or a connection to like your gift and your calling, right? In terms of like how that's been able to like transcribe onto screen for you and in your plays?
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, I have a great mom, and my mom was the type of woman that just talked to everybody. She didn't judge anybody. She met people, she looked them and took them at face value. And she taught me that. She said, she always said to me, I don't care what you do with your life, just be a good person. So when I got these characters,
Can you say that again, please?
I don't.
'Cause I preach that.
I don't care what you do in life, just be a good person. That's all my
Yes.
mom wanted from me. And so when I look at characters that I'm getting, I don't look at what they're doing. I look at who they are. And I think, I don't know how to speak on it, but I think that when I portray somebody, that's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the human experience. And people seem to think that I give my characters a certain heart, or I give my characters a certain feel that they connect to. And I appreciate it, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing my job as the actor, and that's what I bring to the table. I think a certain human experience of non-judgment.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because I think that's how God looks at us,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Did
think
you
so.
Did you play the character so well? You
That was
play.
so beautiful.
Thank you.
We gotta take a moment like
Yes.
this. Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you,
thank you, God.
Yeah.
You played the character Bubble so well. Is this true, or is this just the urban legend that somebody actually approached you with like drugs and heroin and tried to
Yeah.
give it to you,
Yeah, they gave it to me. Gave me a free
thinking that the character was absolutely a real character?
Yeah, they were giving out free testers. They did that. Like, we would shoot on location. Like, we were shooting in neighborhoods where, drug dealers were mad as hell because we were cutting up their money. They're making $10,000 a day. And now we're there with all these camera equipment. They can't work. And, every so on, they had these free testers that they would give out. And a couple of cats was running back from, I guess, getting a couple of free testers. And I'm sitting in front of my trailer getting ready to shoot, and I'm in character because I always felt like I had to stay in character somewhat to be, to shoot. And he was like, "Yo, they got a test a minute. You look like you need one," and then ran off. And I look at my hand, and I got a 1-on-1 free vial, and I was like, "Ooh, if I take this right now, I have an incredible scene." But then I realized I might be only good for one take.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Let me trust my craft. Let me
Yes,
trust
yes.
my preparation. And I just kept it in my trailer for a little while to show. I kept it in my trailer to show me that, I'm not gonna cheat. And if they gave me this because they believe it, I better believe in myself even more so, and go out there and do a good job.
Wow.
So yes, that did happen.
Yeah, my brother, you did so many amazing things. You worked
Yeah.
with J-Lo, you worked with Viola Davis, you
Yeah.
worked on this new play, Drinking America. You did The Wire, legendary, Law and Order. So many legendary things. What do you want to do coming up in the near future? What's on the plan? What's on your 2-year goals, your 5-year goals? What are you trying to accomplish out here in these streets?
You know what? Just so I don't get too long-winded, or I don't jinx myself, or I don't, say things out of turn. I'm just gonna say that my long-term goal is to be a good person.
That's a
That's
good
it.
goal.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a great goal. So talk a little bit about like working with Audible Theater and what that's been like as an experience.
Working with Audible Theater has been fantastic. Like we talked about earlier, it's been 15, 16, let's just say 20 years to be dramatic, since I've been on stage. So I was nervous. And when I found out that Audible Theater, who just bought the Moneta Lane Theater, was involved in producing, I thought it was going to be corporate. I thought it was going to be kind of cold. I didn't know if they really knew how to appreciate the artist. But they've been fantastic. They've been really open and expressive in making sure that I'm taken care of, that I have a place that I feel safe and free to express myself. And I have nothing but good words. And I tell any artist out there, if you can work with Audible, go right ahead, because they seem to really, really respect and understand what we do as artists. And they want to make sure that we have the freedom to do it. So it's been great. I have no complaints about this whole experience of me returning on stage.
That's great. And Drinking in America is going to be available on Audible as well.
That's right. But the great thing about what they did with Moneta Lane Theater is they set it up to be, everything can be recorded. So when you do something there for Audible, it also might, turn into an audio book. And they're going to turn Drinking into America into an audio book so that more people can share who couldn't make it to the theater. So
That's dope.
That is dope.
Yeah.
Well, look, I want to say, unless there's something else you want to ask, I want to say thank you for coming to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, man. Feature presentation. That's
The feature presentation.
That's a big step right there. So
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciate it, man.
Yo, thank you for repping the Bronx.
All day.
Thank you for repping New
BX
York.
forever. That's
You know
right.
what I'm saying? Thank you for coming to the podcast, and we greatly appreciate you. I greatly appreciate what you're doing for the culture and
No
all
doubt.
the things that you're, all your talents that you're providing to the public. So I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
All right,
Appreciate
Andre
you too.
Royo, let's go.
Thank
We
you.
need the sound
Thank
effect.
you. Same. Thank you. Yeah. No, thank
All right.
My brother.